Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment, a podcast devoted to helping you overcome challenges in your life that prevent you from becoming the best version of yourself. Each episode features interviews with people from all walks of life about their journey of self-development and the principles they utilize to overcome their fears to achieve their desired outcome. Ready to be enlightened? Here's your host, Ken Primus.
Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. And guys, you know this before. I've done many of these podcasts, and you know my beginnings, if you will, that I would like to take the time right here to honor our guests and thank them for coming with a couple of things I deem very expensive. That is their time. Man, when I was young, I misused that thing like a crazy nut. But as I got older, I learned how to value her. Man, I learned how to respect time. It granted me more in-depth and powerful relationships. It gave me all kinds of stuff. And so I invite you guys to become familiar with your time. The other is the journey. The journey is a powerful creator. It has created the individual before us. And we want to thank Katharine for coming and sharing both of these precious commodities and honoring us with her time and her insight. You see, this journey has deposited a bunch of ingredients into her, and we want access to that. What's in there? Wisdom, knowledge, understanding, insights, all that stuff. We want to dance in there so that we can become better human spirits while we're here on this planet. Katharine, welcome to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you so much for having me, Ken. I appreciate it.
It's an honor. As I said to you before, that I usually ask this question on the onset of the podcast to maybe scare the people. But how do you serve mankind?
By passing it forward.
I like that.
Everything I've experienced, everything that I've been through, I have learned. I don't believe in failure. I legitimately don't believe in failure because I feel
Likewise.
that you either win or you learn. And because I'm a little bit of an overachiever, every time I learn something, I write it down because that's my happy place. I love to write. So I like to pass forward what I've learned.
Yeah, I've been trying to, maybe you can help me with this. And since you are a writer and one that delves within the realm of words and language, I don't like the term failure. I don't like it at all. And I've been trying to find something to replace that terminology because I think when it says failure, it triggers a mindset that is negative. And when we go through a situation, we did not fail. We learned a great deal of data that is stored within that individual. There is no failure there. There is another way that you haven't found yet, but you did
That's right.
not fail. And so maybe you can help me out, Catherine. I'm trying to figure it out to tell people stop using that word in their life and in their language because it is a lie. It's an absolute lie. It's a trigger from the programmers to begin to create a mindset in you that will keep you in a state of failure, and you don't want to be there. So maybe you can help me out one day.
I think it was Benjamin Franklin. I hope I'm right. Don't email me if I'm wrong, please. Said, I haven't failed 1,000 times. I have simply discovered 1,000 ways that didn't work.
Yeah, I believe it was that young man.
Yeah, it was some quote like that. See, I don't actually ever say I failed. Because I don't believe in it. I don't believe in the word. So I will say, I'm going to have to make another choice, or that was a learning experience, which is quite often what will come out of my mouth. But I never feel that I failed because, you just have to sit back, give yourself 24 hours to eat a pint of ice cream and do whatever you want. Feel sorry for yourself. I don't care what you do. And then you have to stand up, brush yourself off, and take a look at what worked, what didn't work, and you move forward. I've been doing that all my life.
Beautiful advice. One of our custom here is to go back in that time machine that we can travel back via the memory. I like revisiting some of those spaces, I call it, that we live for a few years. And the first space that we usually live there is we have these two individuals. They're called with the title mom and dad. And some of us are lucky to have siblings as well as that. But these two individuals are going to deposit data into us, and they are now going to traumatize us. No, 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 not traumatize. They're going to deposit data into us. You know, you have grandparents, you have the culture within the family. There's a bunch of programmers already there. What was your family unit like?
Dysfunctional. I've often found, because of the forgiveness journey that I'm on and all the people that I've talked to, inevitably your parents and your family are on a 10 scale, with 10 being unforgivable dumpster fire and 1 being easy. Your family is usually on the higher end of that scale, and mine was no different. They were very pickled. I come from 2 alcoholics, and my life kind of got on a trajectory in 1970. Never mind what year it was. I was in I was in the 8th grade. I was getting really badly bullied in school because I was different. And my parents were getting a divorce, and because of all the stress, I tried to commit suicide. So I kind of turned into, and Ken, you know who these kids are. I turned into one of the, quote unquote, those kids, right? I had one friend, I was draped in black, but in my defense, I lived in Manhattan and New York City, and everybody was draped in black, and they still are. So I don't know how true that is, but I kind of floated through life until my mother died. And before she died, she fell down a flight of stairs, broke her hip, ended up in the hospital. And even my mother couldn't get a gin and tonic in the hospital. So she dried out, and we sent her to rehab. And for the next 3 years, we were as close as sisters. I am so blessed that I had 3 beautiful years with my mother to forgive and to talk and to get everything out. And then she died of breast cancer. So I kind of went back into that hole again. And I knew that if I didn't change my life, you and I wouldn't be sitting here, I'd be dead. So
Wow.
I quit drinking myself. I've been sober 34 years. And I got my life together, and I started to forgive people. And that's really when the journey started.
Forgiveness, as I
About as
said
quick
on
as
the
I can
onset, is
summarize it.
forgiveness is one of the most powerful things we'll ever do, and I always, when I'm talking to people about it, is it's done from a place of strength. Most people think that when you are going to forgive someone that you're weak. It is actually one of the most powerful times in your life, and when you approach it from that mindset, you stand a little taller because you understand the the humbleness and all of the other things that come within that realm of forgiving and to moving through. And we're going to tap into Katharine's knowledge of the process of that, because there's a process that one needs to do when we're told you need to forgive that individual. You had said you were different back in the first set of the conversation at a young age, and because you were different, everyone was picking on you. I know that word different because that thing is a loaded word. How were you different? What were you experiencing in your life that made you different from all the other children around you?
Well, in the 1960s and 1970s, I am that old. If you hear voices in your head, you're given medicine and sent to the psychiatric hospital. I have been intuitive all my life, and I always thought that everybody heard voices in their head and talked to themselves and would get answers. And imagine my surprise when I discovered that I was the only one. So because I was so bullied, I kept my mouth shut, didn't tell anybody. And I stayed that way because I wanted to be normal and I wanted to try and fit in, but I wasn't athletic, so I couldn't fit in that way. And I'm a writer. In fact, that's why I got through college. I could the essays and the tests, so I could always ace those. If it was multiple choice, I was in trouble, but I always aced the writing.
Where did you
And
pick that up, Catherine? Where did you pick the writing up? How old were you when you began to put pen to paper or recognize that you had that gift, that skill to put pen to paper?
that's nobody's ever asked me that. 79. In 79, I graduated from high school and I wasn't ready for college yet so I kind of wanted to take a year off. So I went on this year-long interim program called Dynamite. It went out of business long ago. It's not around anymore. And what they did is they put you in an outward bound situation for 3 months where you went hiking, canoeing, the whole thing. And they stuck you in the woods for 3 days by yourself with no food. And then for the rest of the year, you did internships. But they gave me some paper and a pen, and I sat in the woods for 3 days. And that's when I figured out I could write, because that's what I did for 3 days. I wrote.
Wow,
And that's
that's
when it started.
excellent story. I love it because I always like to get the genesis of things
Well, that's when it
as
started, all
we
right.
progress in life. I tell people there's a genesis, and once you locate the genesis of certain things, especially like traumas and all these different things, then you're able to deal with it. A lot of people don't understand. And I mentioned that trauma is basically a stored emotion. Something happened, an incident happened that the child interprets somehow and received data into them. And they had an emotional outburst that they couldn't announce, if you will, and it became locked, just like you, locked up because everyone wasn't hearing, as you were saying, that those voices were giving you direction, knowledge, insights, and all that type of stuff.
I call it the little bird on my shoulder, and that's another book that I wrote. But I had
Yeah.
that little bird on my shoulder for years, and I didn't tell anybody, Ken. In fact, believe it or not, the first person I actually told what I could do is my husband of 34 years.
Wow.
And he didn't commit me, and he didn't buy me a straitjacket. You know, so I moved into my business, and I'm a concierge trainer by trade, and I'm one of the founders of the concierge industry. No ego. It was what it was, to be frank. And I still didn't tell anybody. But I get messages for people whether I want to or not. They just kind of come through. So I am the queen mixing up the language. So if I got a message for somebody, and I did all the time, I just look them dead in the eye and say, have you ever thought ... I have a hunch that ... And when something really rang true and they said, how could you possibly know that? I just sloughed it off and said, well, just years of experience. I've been teaching concierge for a long time. It's just been around. I'm old. I used to say something. Well, it wasn't that I'm particularly smart. It was a little bird on my shoulder who told me the answer. Never gave me the answers to the test questions, though. It was really annoying. I tried. They never would give me the answers. Always,
I
and
remember.
it irritated why older son too, who's as intuitive as I am, and he tried the same thing, and it irritated him too that they wouldn't give him the answers to tests, and he actually had to study.
You have to do some efforts in certain things. I remember when
Apparently.
there's a period of my life, Catherine, when I got those downloads, and it would be walking into the hallway, business conferences and stuff like that, and I knew everything about an individual. And one particular guy, pulled him. I had to stop him because I knew what he was thinking and contemplating. He was contemplating to commit suicide, and I pulled him aside and I began to talk with him and tough stuff like that. And he looked at me and said, "How do you know that? How do you know that?" I said, "It doesn't matter how I know that, but I just
Legend.
want to let you know that you are loved." And this, and I began to tell him all the data that I was receiving about him, and you know, kept moving. But that went on for years, to the point where it was getting more and more acute. And I had to ask for help. I'm like, I can't handle it. It's too much data, because there's so many people hurting. That's what it showed me,
Yeah, there's so
that
many people to
so
hear,
many
and
people are
when you
hurting.
walk into a room and
Yeah.
and the other side realizes you could hear them,
Yeah.
usually the messages can come through fast and furious for people.
Yeah.
But
Really.
society has this nasty, nasty habit of slapping the "you're crazy" label on everybody who shows even a tiny bit of intuition. And that's why I kept it a secret for so many years, until I ran into a real close friend of mine, Katie, and messages came through. This was like 2020. And she smiled. We were on Zoom, and she said, "Stop it." I smiled back and I said, "What?" She's really intuitive herself. She said, "I know what you're doing. You got to stop, and you're so talented. You got to come out of the closet." So I
Yeah.
did, very gingerly.
Yeah, I hid too. So here you are, and this young girl she shut her voice down
I
when
did.
she understood that, hey, that you can't talk. As she's
Well,
now
I didn't
moving
shut it
through
down. I
life.
just didn't tell anybody about it. I still got the
Yeah,
messages. I just kept my mouth shut.
Yeah, I've been there. I know exactly. So I didn't tell a person, a single soul, anything that was happening because I know exactly what they would label me. And probably, as you said, put us away and lock it, throw away the key. But here you are, as you're moving through life, and you have the data being deposited to you on, as you are moving through. What was your relationship to others outside of your family? We know, as you said, your family were pickled. And what was your relationship and language towards others outside of your family?
I think because of who I am, people are either drawn to, this might stretch people's brain a little bit. Everything on the planet vibrates. Everything. And every human being has a
Yeah,
very unique
everything.
vibration. And the higher you vibrate, that's what we're all kind of doing, trying to increase our vibration. Stay with me. So if you're in a room and your vibration is different from somebody else's, that's why kids get bullied, because they stand next to you and it doesn't feel good. It's like oil to water. So they take a step away and
Hmm.
go, wow, that's weird. And so you get bullied. And that's kind of what happens. So I kind of intuitively knew who came toward me like a moth to a flame and who didn't. So I've always had kind of a core group of friends around me. And there's a story it was about 20 years ago, a group of intuitive friends and I went out to lunch. And the server came over. There's a funny story. The server came over. She politely took everybody else's order. Then she came to me and she took a step back and it looked like she'd seen a ghost. So I just smiled. My concierge training kicked in. So, customer service, blah, blah, blah. I just smiled and I gave her
Hmm.
my order. She fled back to the kitchen. I thought, well, that's a little odd that she would run back to the kitchen. So fast forward, she brings the food, politely puts everybody's plate next to them until she gets to me. She takes this is true. She took the plate and she flung it across the table like a frisbee. And then she ran back into the kitchen. I thought she was going to come out with holy water and sprinkle it on me. And I was real tempted to look at her and go, boo. But I didn't, I'm very polite. I've been trained a lot. So I didn't say anything. And a friend of mine leaned over and she said, she's scared of your energy. So it happens, and it happens to you. You go to the grocery store, you'll be standing
Oh
in an
yeah.
aisle, the aisle is empty, and all of a sudden, everybody wants to be around you, reaching for the
Hmm.
same little coffee thing that you're reaching for. And I've often thought I should send an invoice to these store owners because I brought all these people into their store. But when you shake somebody's hand and you immediately don't like them, and that little bird in your shoulder is kind of singing, and you're looking at them thinking this doesn't feel right, take a step back, because that's exactly what happened. But don't take it personally. It just really means that they're not vibrating the same way as you, and just walk away. It's a natural part of life
Yeah,
once you figure it out.
once you figure it out, there's a piece of advice that I've given to my sons as a single dad with my boys, and I would tell them, and again, that's because of me, who I am, and what was happening with me. And I would say this phrase: if it doesn't feel right, it isn't right.
That's right. And
And
don't take it personally if it doesn't.
yeah, and I told them, I said, anytime you go to a location, anywhere, if it doesn't feel right, it isn't right. Leave right away. Don't question anything. And I told them, I said, that's my advice to you guys. And my sons, so many of them have told me so many times they've gone to clubs and locations, house parties, and it didn't feel right. They up, left.
Yep.
Next thing they know, from one of their friends, you at the party? There was a drive-by. There was this. There was that. And so many times they've told me that their lives were saved from that little advice that I gave them. And those who are listening to our conversation, if it doesn't feel right, it isn't.
It
Get out of
isn't.
it. Your subconscious being, your soul knows something is not right, and you will need to move out of that situation. Trust it.
Trust it.
We call it intuition. Trust it
Mhm.
and get out. However you get out, just get out. So here you are, Catherine. You're growing, this young girl, understanding the difficulties of relationship with others outside of family and self and all these different things. And you're heading towards college. You're getting a little older, and yet you still are restricted with your inner knowledge as to what's happening on the inside and outside of others, that you have information. You can't say a word yet, but you're heading into college. Um, which field did you pick and why did you pick it?
I was a sociology anthropology major with a minor in music.
Man, you are a serious high performance individual when it comes to the mind, aren't you? So you're pushing yourself. We call those type A personalities.
No, believe it or not, I am not a type. I was born shy. Believe it or
So
not,
was
my
I. And
knee-jerk
then I turned to
reaction
this.
is not to walk into a group of people and say, "Hi, here I am." I mean, it's inevitably I'll go over to where the food and the drinks are and hang out and hope somebody takes pity on me. But I'm what they call an extroverted introvert. So I can
Yes.
turn it on when I have to, and then I have to get away from the crowd, so to speak. So
Yeah, that's
I
my
can pull
label.
it out of the hat when I have to.
They told me that's what I am as well when they began to figure me out a little, but I already knew. So you went into the field. What did you learn while you were there? What
I think
knowledge was you bringing in?
it was the study of people that I liked. And I kind of studied people. I took a lot of psychology courses and I was a writer. I've always been a writer. So
Hmm.
I really enjoy the writing part. I took a lot of English lit classes because it allowed me to write. And that's what got me through college. And singing, I don't sing anymore, but it taught me stage presence and how to speak to people, which I do now all the time. So it gave me a really good foundation for what was going to be my career down the line.
Let me ask you this question. For someone whose voice has been stifled and yet you are writing,
Hmm?
did you write anything that you were stifled with? Did
Sure.
you start to begin to bring that knowledge out a little? And what and how did people receive that when you began to bring it out?
First book, I've written 12 books, and granted, 6 of them were the Concierge Manual, which is the first book I've ever written, which was teaching people how to start a concierge business, and the 6th
Hmm.
edition just came out. But the second book I wrote almost derailed my career, and I'm rewriting it now. Everybody will be happy. I am going to put it out again. I think maybe the world might be ready this time, but it was the word on the cover freaked everybody out. It was a book called God Is That You?
Hmm.
Freaked it. And this was 20 years ago, right around the time 9/11 happened. I can't think
Yeah.
2002. I can't remember what year it was. And it was teaching people how to have a two-way conversation with God or the other side, or call it anything you like, to have a two-way conversation with that little bird on your shoulder, which is something I've been doing all my life. And the reason I decided to write it is because I've been hearing the voice that sounded just like my own voice in my own mind for many, many years. And then one afternoon, we moved down from New Jersey down to North Carolina. And my kids were 1 and 3, the boys. And I turned my head and I saw an angel standing in my kitchen. And then she was gone. And I was raised Episcopalian. And if you see things and hear things, you're crazy and should go take some meds. So I didn't say anything to anybody because I didn't really know I'd seen it. Maybe I'm hallucinating. Maybe, I'm overtired because I've got these 2 young, active boys.
Yeah.
Couldn't get it out of my head. Remember, no computers. No, we didn't even have dial-up modems in these days. It was,
Yeah.
very early on. This was like in the late 90s, and I think we had floppy disks or something like that. So there really wasn't any way to just go in your phone and find out. So I went to the bookstore, being a college educated gal. So I thought somebody's written about this. So I'm walking down the bookstore. This is true. And all of a sudden, a book flies off the shelf and lands at my feet. Okay, I'm pretty open and I'm really spiritual, but even I had trouble about it. I had trouble with a levitating book. So I walked around to the other side of the bookcase to see who was there. There was nobody there. So I walked down, picked the book up. It was Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And in that
Yep.
moment, I finally understood exactly who I'd been talking to. So I
Yeah.
decided to help people out and write a book about it. And the world was not ready for it, even remotely. So it's out of print now. And I went on to write a bunch of other books, including my new book, which is on forgiveness. But I did promise my friends that I would rewrite and update God Is That You and put it out again. So hopefully
I think
maybe people read it this time.
I think they're ready. I think this time they're ready.
I hope so.
I think most
I
people
thought
are.
about changing the title, but everybody's told me not to change the title.
No,
Everybody likes it. It's like, okay,
yeah,
I'll
don't
leave it.
change the title. Let those that belong to you come, and they will find you, as they say. So
I was real
just, yeah,
disappointed when the book didn't fly too. I
of
kind
course,
of mourned that for months. That one, it was like kicking a puppy, you know. I mean, that one hurt. And
yeah.
I've won a couple
Okay,
book awards, and I thought everybody would be reading it and everybody would like it. No, it didn't work out that way.
so
It
talk to us about
flopped.
that hurt, Catherine, because
Yeah,
that
that did
hurt
one. That one hurt.
is a death of an expectation, or I tell people that death of an expectation or death of a character that we play. You know, one of those, a wife, a husband, one of those characters that we play for a few years, and then when we get a divorce and that character dies, everyone wants to kill themselves, not understanding that there are many characters within themselves that they can create another one. So here is this author.
Gave it a shot. My other books have all been very well
The
received, and
first one
people
was
like them.
good.
And
Yeah,
the
the
first
second,
one was good. I wrote a book about cancer and intuition, and all the other books did really well. It was just that
yeah,
one book.
yeah.
So my friend Katie and Paula have convinced me that the world is ready, and they want me to put it out again. So I'll put it out again.
How did you take it? What did it do to you as an individual first, and because you're still an individual, but who's a writer as well. As an individual first, what did it do to you? And then as a writer, what did it do to you?
Well, my friend, that failure was probably, and I don't like the word fail, I learned a
Yeah,
lot from it. And I'm the type of person, if you tell me I can't do something, maybe
yeah,
I didn't want to do it before, but now I really want to do it just to stick it to you to prove that I can.
yeah.
So it actually added fuel to my fire, and I went on to write 3 more books, and all became very successful. So it fueled my fire. It kind of lit a fire under me because I got irritated. It's like, this should have worked. So I kind of sloughed it off, and I forgave myself, and I forgave everybody else, and I just kind of kept going. It was gasoline for me.
That is, it's really good to find out because some people need to see how to utilize not a failure. Catherine and I are trying to find a good word for it. When something doesn't happen or work out for you, there are different ways that one can accept it. One can use it as fuel, or you can use it and become depressed. Choice is yours. You have that ability to decide which do you want. One is a darker energetic level, and the other gives you hope and purpose. And life is about making those decisions. And so, you guys, take your time. I always tell my kids, decide on a situation wisely. When one presents, you have the immediate effect of that decision. Then you have some decisions that will come in 10 hours, 20 hours. Then there's some of those that the 5 years, 10 years, and it'll still affect. You have few seconds to understand which is which. Breathe
That's
and look
it.
deep inside you. Breathe, look deep inside, and make the decision. Don't make it just from here, from your mind. Go into your subconscious mind and make that decision, and you
I
will
feel
be
that
guided.
the world wants us to stuff our negative emotions down into our body, and I think that's very unhealthy. So
Yeah.
I've told everybody, including my sons, I will give you 24 hours. I might even give you 48 hours if you're nice to me,
Hmm.
to be upset, be angry, eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Don't care what you do. You got 24 to 48 hours to get it all out. Scream, cry. I don't care. But after that time period, I want you to reset, and I want you to look at what happened, take what you can, learn from it, and then move on and create something else.
How come you don't mention cheesecake?
Cheesecake, yeah, sure. I mean,
So
I,
here
I
you
don't
are.
drink. I don't drink, so I didn't want to say a fifth of scotch. That's probably not very healthy.
Not healthy. Neither is that
Possibly, I don't
cheesecake.
want you to do that. But a big, and I don't even say it, not just a slice. Eat
Yeah.
half the cake. Come on now.
Well, you got to get in there and get muddy, as they say. So here you are. Catherine, because I want to get to the forgiveness piece, and you talked about it briefly about your mom when she had her liberation, if you will, after she fell and she became dry and became
Was.
approachable. That you had an opportunity to have one of your greatest relationships on the planet while
Hmm.
she was here, and then she passes away and you have to now figure your way out from there. So here you are, she passes away, you got the news. You may have known that it was happening, but once they're gone, they're gone. That energy is no longer there, and you can really, really feel it. How did that impact you having the opportunity to spend time with her, but then she was taken from you, and now you have to manage that situation? How did you handle it?
It didn't. I went into a hole. I was in a black hole of mourning for about a year. And I went from my apartment to work, to the grocery store, to my apartment. My friend circle was very small, and I didn't handle it at all. I was devastated. And then I decided that I needed to change my life because the little bird on my shoulder kept saying, if you don't pull yourself out of it, you're going to die. And I knew they were right. That little bird on my shoulder has saved my life 3 or 4 times. Not that I'm counting,
Yeah.
but it's so I quit drinking, and all the recovery programs you go to say you have to make amends and that kind of thing. So I did, forgave everybody, and I kind of forgiving yourself is the hardest thing.
It's the
But nobody
hardest.
teaches you how to forgive. They look at you and say you need to forgive. It's like, okay, how? And then every one of your listeners right now, 10 out of 10 of you, on a 10 scale, with 10 being unforgivable dumpster fire and 1 being easy, everybody listening to this broadcast is thinking of their number 10 person. So inevitably you're looking at somebody and saying, well, I don't want to forgive. That's fair. I wouldn't want to forgive an unforgivable person either. So there's other people you can forgive before you even get to that dumpster fire. So I did forgive people, but it wasn't really until 2020, 2021 that I figured out this new method of exactly how to forgive people so they stay forgiven. And it has to
Yeah.
do with using the words "I forgive you" and here's the special sauce. Here you go. Forgiving the energy.
Yeah.
That's what everybody misses. You
Yeah.
haven't forgiven the energy. And Einstein said that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just transforms. So when you
Hmm.
get mad, everybody on the planet thinks it leaves your mouth and it dissipates. Your anger dissipates magically in the universe. Sadly, it does not. It hangs in your energy field. So for everybody listening, I'm holding a very opaque coffee cup in front of me. So let's say this coffee cup is anger. I can hold it off to the side. Look at my body language. You and I, we can have dinner. I can talk to you. I can conduct my life. It's manageable. I can hold it off to the side. But the longer I stay angry and I don't transmute the energy, it's going to start to hurt. So now look at my body language. Both my hands are tied up holding up the anger. So now my life is limited now. And if I still hold on to it, well, now the coffee cup's right in front of my face. I can't see you. I can't see the job opportunity that just walked by. My life significant other, the perfect human just walked by. I missed it because I'm all focused on my anger, and it's all I can see. My friend circle has gone down because who wants to be around me? I'm negative all the time and I'm angry. And even if you spin the story funny, you're still telling the stories. So the method I've come up with, and there's worksheets in the book, and there's an audio book available too for everybody who doesn't like to read, but it allows you to put the anger down permanently so you can actually talk to people. You can see opportunities. You can pay attention again. You might see the perfect way to lose weight. There's a reason to buy the book. You might lose some weight. You might see the perfect job opportunity. You didn't see it before because you weren't too angry. So now you can become the human you were always meant to be when you got put down on this planet.
That is a powerful story, and I have an additional. I love the fact that you utilize the cup and how you make your hands and so forth. When I was a young man, I was going to church, and we used to go street witnessing, if you will. And I remember hitting the door on this lady's house one Saturday. She opened, but I could see visually that her hands were crippled. I mean, absolutely,
Yeah.
really, her hands were just
Arthritic.
folded. Arthritis, serious case of arthritis. And I went in to her, and we were talking after we talked, and I asked her, I said, "Do you want to be healed?" And she said, "Yeah, I would love to get healed." And I said, "Well, I can pray for you and get you would get your healing." I just knew. I'm standing in front of her. I said, I just knew it. And I said to her, "But you have to forgive that individual before you can get your healing." And she looked at me, and she said, "Forgive?" And I said, "Yeah, you have to forgive him." And I said, "Who is it that you're holding this thing against?" And she said, "My husband." And I said, "Oh, bring him out." Little kid, young kid. She said, "He's been dead." I said, "He's been dead for how long?" She said, "He's been dead for over 10 years." And I
Yep,
said,
you can
"And you
forgive dead
haven't?"
people.
Yeah, I said, "And you haven't forgive him?" I said, "Would you forgive him?" And she said, "No, I will not forgive him because of what he
A
did
little
to me."
angry.
And I said to her, "But," I said, "I know that if you forgive him, that you would have your healing, your hands would release and come back to normal. It's your hatred and your anger for your husband that manifested in your body as
That's right.
arthritis. You have to let it go." She looked at me, she said, "No, get out."
Anger. I don't care that it's toxic.
She said,
That's
"I
funny.
will not forgive him because he cheated on me with my best friend. I'm never going to forgive him." And I remember just walking out of the door because there's nothing that can be done because she refused to do what was necessary. And what was necessary was forgiveness. And so forgiveness can manifest, lack of forgiveness can manifest in your body because it is an emotional, energetic being that, and
Hmm.
it will cripple your hands, it'll cripple your body, it'll cripple your mind, it'll cripple you. And so you have to understand, as Catherine was saying, it's an energy that you have to dissipate from your being, from your sphere, from around you. And if you don't, it will manifest in your body. I've
I have
heard it
science to
so
back up
many
what you're
times.
saying.
Yeah,
I
this
have
is real.
science. Forgiveness doesn't mean they were correct. They weren't. Forgiveness is selfish. You do it for you. And you don't
Yes.
have to reach out to the person. So there's the stress right off. You can do this in the privacy of your own home. Nobody has to know. But just because I forgive you does not mean you are right. It means I need you out of my head. I want to stop thinking about you. It's a very personal, private journey. And it also doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. Because I forgive you doesn't mean I want a relationship with you, because I probably don't. So there is a science chapter in the book for all you naysayers out there to back up what Ken is saying. There was a Japanese researcher called, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Masumoto. And if you Google Japanese researcher studying water, you'll be able to see all the pictures. They're phenomenal. He studied water. And I'm really dumbing this down. One container of water, he said beautiful things to. He talked to it. He treated it well. It was just beautiful. The other container of water, he said nasty things. He swore at it. He told it was worthless, that kind of thing. Then he put it under a microscope. The
Mm-hmm.
water that he treated negatively had these dark brown and black
Yep. I've
formations.
seen it.
And the
Yeah.
water he said nice things to had these beautiful snowflake like crystal
Yeah.
formations. Why am I telling you this? Your body is
Is water.
98%
98%.
water.
Yep.
So if you are negative and you're angry, everybody says anger is toxic. Okay, how? This is how. You're literally turning the cells into your body into these black and brown formations, and you're making yourself sick. And forgiveness and saying nice things and creating good self talk and forgiving the people around you and forgiving yourself, hello, and starting with the easy ones and working your way up to the hard ones and forgiving the energy around people is going to transmute the water in your body, and you're going to get healthier.
Absolutely, 100%. The study was also done with plants and
Yep.
all these different things as you speak to them also. And so any living being, words are most powerful, one of the most powerful things that will can manifest and create things. And so um, Catherine just gave you guys what was it called? The $1 million question answer?
That's it.
And
The
it is an
secret sauce to the
energy.
whole
Yeah, the
thing.
equal sauce that she said, but it's an energy that you must move from out of your space, out of you. And when that is moved out away from you, as she states, even your body will respond in a positive manner. Your cellular level will begin to
That's right.
change because the water and all of that is within your cells, and so your cells will become healthier. Your body will become healthier, all from forgiveness, guys. This is just one thing. Imagine about all the other things out there that we have to, or these principles that are out there that can make us healthy. And forgiveness, Catherine and I talked about it. It's not done from a place of weakness. It is not done. You will probably be the last person that you're going to forgive, yeah, on that list because
You're usually your number 10. But don't forget, you can forgive, and here's another thing most people have never heard. You can forgive people, yeah, we all know that, but you can forgive places and things and time periods. Think about your childhood school. Let's say you were bullied like I was, and every time you drive, and maybe you live in your hometown, and when you drive by that building, you have bad memories about it. Forgive the building. Forgive the energy around the building. Forgive the desk. Forgive the energy around the desk. If you're talking about your number 10 unforgivable and you can't forgive that person, okay, that's fine. Forgive the room where the memory happened. Forgive the table, the bed, the chair. I forgave 1974, whole darn year, all at once. Why did I forgive 1974? Because it was a dumpster fire. I was getting bullied. My parents were getting a divorce, and I tried to commit suicide from the stress. So I forgave all the players in that year, but then I decided to just forgive the whole year and the energy around the year. So anything you have a memory about, a bad memory about, you can forgive, and you can forgive around it. So if you can't forgive your number 8s, 9s, and 10s on that 10 scale, forgive stuff around it. Cherry pick things. Maybe it was Thanksgiving and you had a huge falling out with your father. Okay, well, how about forgiving the other people at the table? You're not forgiving your dad, but you're forgiving Aunt Martha and Uncle Tom. You're forgiving the table. You're forgiving the chair that you were sitting in. Sometimes maybe the only thing you can do is forgive yourself for not being able to forgive. Start there. It's all about baby steps. You start with the easy ones. The person who chipped you in school, the person who cut you off in the grocery store the other day. Easy people that we can toss. And as you go through the easy ones and you work your way up to that dumpster fire, you're going to start to feel better. So don't start with the person that's in your mind right now. Push that one off for a while. Start with the easy ones, and you're going to start to feel better. Your self-talk will be better. You're going to start to pay attention to the world around you more. And it's going to help you a lot.
yeah, I can attest to that, guys, because I had to go through that also personally. I suffered. I was an angry young man because of how my parents had treated me, grandparents, and all that type of stuff, and others. As you get old, and I had to learn to go through that in my journey about forgiveness, and I learned much about it. And when I was capable and ready to do that, it was, as Catherine said, it was all selfish in a way because it freed me from all of the other things that was I had. If I looked at it this way, if I did not forgive, I gave them power over me, and I refused to do that. And I wanted to take my power back. And so my power in taking back my power, it came through forgiveness. And once I began to exercise that situation that was very large, if you will, in my belief system, my mind disappeared, and I became happier. My cells began to change as we were talking about. So I invite you guys to come into the space of forgiving. Catherine gave you and I some additional insight, which I hadn't heard before. The energy aspect of it, and I got to go back and do some energy cleaning myself. So I want to welcome you guys on this journey with me. And as Catherine just enlightened us, start with the small stuff, work your way up she is interested in you being free. We're going to provide all of her data, all of his links and everything for you guys. Get those books, man. You know how I feel about books. A book saved my life when I was going through anger, and I walked into this church. It wasn't a church, it was a monastery, and I picked up a book about anger. And I read the first chapter of the book, and I cannot remember who the book was. I carried it for many years, but I read the first chapter and I closed the book because everything I needed was in the first chapter, and I know I should have finished the book, but the first chapter changed my life. I began to seek forgiveness. I began to all of those things that she has been talking about. And I remember one of the greatest things that ever happened to my life was my children came to me and they said, "Dad, we see a visible change in you." That was one of the greatest gifts that was ever given to me while I was here on this earth as a human being. That my children saw my change, my evolution, if you will, from this angry young man to one that became loving. And still from time to time, that crazy guy will show up and then I have to tame him down and say,
Once
"Well,
in a while.
I haven't seen
We're
you in
all
a
human
long
after
time.
all.
I haven't seen you. Where you been hiding?" But it made me realize that it is forever going on until I live and die here. There are aspects of forgiveness that I need to know, and maybe the pieces that I needed to know is what was just offered to me, the energetic piece of it. And so that's probably the last knowledge or the last nail on the head that I need to extract some stuff in and apply it in my life. And I really want to give you guys the opportunity to apply it in your life as well. Be free, man. Be free. So here you are, Katharine, you prolific writer. You've done all of these things, and you and I had the conversation. You had the encounter with mom, and she, because of that journey with her, you were able to become who you are today. You came up and you had that conversation with yourself, get your act together, girl, and you began to move forward. When you began to do that, get your act together, girl, what tools did you bring into your life to help you from that dark place of depression and from your house to work, to the supermarket, to your house, to your work, that routine? What did you say to yourself, Katharine, to move you from that routine?
I used the same tools then that I used to get through cancer. I kept a positive attitude. And staying positive is like taking a shower. I think you should do it every day. And sometimes when you're going through something incredibly dark, you have to do it minute by minute by minute. And it's a choice and it's a lifestyle. And I chose to be positive and make people laugh and flip, negativity when I could. I chose to see the good in people. I literally woke up one morning, because every morning you're given 24 hours to change yourself. You could change yourself on a dime if you want to. And I kind of did, because I knew if I didn't, I was going to die, because God told me that. So I changed. I changed what I was eating. I changed how I was thinking. And I did it again when I went through breast cancer. I'm 12 years cancer free at this point. And it's a question of your attitude. I've said to many people, I can take the easy road or the hard road. I much prefer the easy road, the express. I'll give you an example. When I got breast cancer, stage 3, still here. When you have dinner with the Grim Reaper and you don't go home with the guy, it kind of changes you. So it changed me. But in the beginning, they send you, I don't think they do this anymore, but they send you to chemo class, for Christ's sake. And I sat in this little room with Nurse Ratchet right at the front, and she's telling you all the awful things and the awful side effects, nothing positive, nothing which you should be eating clean and all these things. My brain snapped, just like it snapped when I was a kid and my mother had just died. And it snapped again. And I walked up to her and I said, I live in the South. So I walked up to her and said, I'm not going to get all of those side effects. And she said, oh, honey, you're going to get most of them. You got stage 3. I said, no, I'm not. Fast forward a year, I did get chemo, radiation, the whole thing. I was very sick. I did lose my hair and look like Schmiegel's mother at that point, from the Lord of the Rings. You know, the Gollum in Lord
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
Rings with the bald
forgot
thing?
one.
My kids were calling me Mama Schmiegel. So mean. But she came up to me in the hallway after I just had a chemo infusion and she said, "What are you doing?" I looked at her. People don't usually ask me that question. They said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean? What am I doing? You must be eating something. What are you doing? You're not as sick as you should be." And I smiled at her and I said, "Do you remember a year ago when I told you I wasn't going to get as sick as everybody else? That's what I did. It's your mind. It's a powerful tool." And she just looked at me like I grew another head onto my body. And she just shook her head and she said, "Well, it's got to be something else," and walked away.
Yeah, the power of the
And
mind.
that's the thing. I wrote a book in chemo on my phone because I was bored. You have to keep your mind engaged and you have to stay positive. You don't die until you're dead. Don't die until you're dead. If you're an hour away from dying, okay, I'll let you be. I'll give it to you.
I
Stay
try to tell
positive, and
people,
I learned very early on that your mindset is the key to transforming yourself, and I learned that at a very young age.
yeah, it is the absolute key. Just like you told us about the energy, it is also the key. The mind is where it all starts, and the subconscious mind, where you're actually reprogramming your mind. I try to put it this way and make it as simple as I can for people as they're hearing about our conversation. What being in the mind is about is being present right before you. The thoughts that come, stay present, because the thoughts will come from two different fields: the past and the future. And one of these guys are going to be tugging, both of them will be tugging at you a million miles a minute. But your failure was this, or was that. All of that stuff back there means nothing. All of the stuff up front you can't change, because if you could have changed it, it wouldn't be there, would it? So all you got is right there. That center moment right there. What do you do when you are there? You control your thoughts. You do not go back. You do not go forward. Fear and anxiety hangs out when you go forward. Regret, shame, all the other things hang back when you go back. But when you are in front and you're looking at your situation, you focus on the positive. Bring that back. Bring that positive thoughts over and over. Every time you try to go back, bring it back. No, nope, this is where we're going to live. Guarantee you. What you're doing is rewiring your brain. You're
Absolutely, you are.
rewiring your synapses. You are changing everything, and your situation behind the scenes is working. People call that the quantum field and all that stuff, and surrounding. All that stuff is working because you have become present. Powerful, man. Get there. What do you think? I'll ask you, because you said the energy stuff, girl. I didn't do that. I got to go back and clean up. But you're absolutely 100% right. You said it, and then it's like, bing.
That's why certain people in your life have not stayed forgiven, because you didn't forgive the energy. You go on Facebook and don't, everybody out there, don't lie to me. Everybody does this. Don't lie. We go on Facebook, we see our childhood bully, we see that they broke their leg or some such thing, and in your head you're silently thinking, "Oh, well, karma probably deserved that." Come on, we all do that. Part of your brain kind of saying, "Well, I kind of wanted to stick it to you, so okay, karma. See, it's going to get you in the end. It's like an Australian boomerang. It's going to come around and bite you." So, forgiveness and forgiving the energy is going to allow the person to stay forgiven. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and said, "Well, I did forgive them." Okay. Hear angry in your voice. Why? Do it
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
And forgiveness is kind of like an onion. And you're not going to get a number 10 down to a number 1 in one session. It's going to take a minute. And you might get the 10 down to a 9. And then some more memories are going to come up. It's like an onion peeling back the layers. And then you're going to forgive those memories. And then you're probably going to have to dial it back. Does this sound like a lot of hard work? It kind of is. It's not going to happen overnight. But if you do 10 at night, you do it before you go to bed. And there's a reason I want you to do this work before you go to bed. And it's because your body heals itself when it's sleeping. And in order for the cells in your body to be healed, they're going to have to, I will politely say, come out of your body in some way. So some people, when they forgive, they feel lighter. Some people get really, really tired. Some people are politely put in the bathroom for a while. You didn't eat a piece of bad fish. It's just your body getting rid of all the anger energy. Now, because I'm an overachiever, when I came up with this method, I must have written down 50 people, places, and things. And I thought, I'm going to go through the whole list in one sitting. I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off. I'm going to be this brand new person. So I forgave all these people, all these buildings, all these places, all at once, and then spent the next 3 days in bed, which what everybody thought was a stomach. I made myself sick because my body needed to take time to transmute all that energy. So don't make yourself sick. And a couple of other people I know have called me and said, I didn't listen. I did what you did. I've been sick. Okay. Don't make yourself sick. Just do 10 at a time. Your body can easily handle 10, 11, 12 people at a time. Start with the number ones, make a list and then, make a list of 60 people, places, and things. Rate everybody from 1 to 10 and start with the number ones. And
guys,
you can have more than one. You can have multiple number 5s. This is your party. You can play it any way you want. But it's really going to help.
Guys, we're going to provide everything for you to get access to her. You need to, those of you that are living in that space of unforgiveness, you've heard, as they would say in church, you've heard testimony, you've heard this sermon being preached. And then you heard a couple of testimonies along with it and the benefits of it and how it affects you on a cellular level and how it can heal you on a cellular level. I welcome you guys to come and get into her space because it is important that you free yourself from that place of anger, because I know personally where it is. And she, I think, gave us some additional data, man. I'm telling you, I'm going back in there. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for telling me don't take the 30, because I'm one of those guys that would have taken the 30.
My pleasure. You don't want to be sick for the next couple of days, my friend.
And so I'm going to break it down and deal with it. And so I invite you all to, this has been such a wonderful, enlightened conversation. Katharine, thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Threads of Enlightenment with Ken Primus. Hopefully you're now feeling more empowered to overcome the challenges in your life, whatever they may be. Share that inspiration with others by telling them about this podcast, rating it, and of course, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. For more connection, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Threads of Enlightenment. Until next time, stay enlightened.